All right, let's jump into this week's deep dive, shall we? So, you're thinking of selling your place here on the beautiful Gold Coast, and of course, you want to make sure you get the best price right. Avoid those nasty little mistakes that can cost you, right?
Exactly.
Well, we've been going through a bunch of articles, and there's one recently that really caught our eye. It's packed with these, like, classic pitfalls
Yeah.
that sellers fall into. I think it'll be really useful for anyone listening who is even thinking about selling.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some real golden nuggets in there. And I think, especially here on the Gold Coast, where the market moves so quickly,
Oh, tell me about it.
pricing your home right from the get-go is absolutely crucial. Like, that's step one right there.
So you're saying it's not just a matter of sticking a high price tag on it and crossing your fingers.
No, not at all. You see, buyers these days, especially here, they're pretty switched on. They know the market inside out. They're doing their research. So if you come in overpriced, it can actually backfire. Well, for one, your property might just sit there. Weeks turn into months. Buyers see it's been on the market forever, and they start wondering what's wrong with it. Even if there's nothing inherently wrong, that perception, it can be really hard to shake.
They start thinking, oh, there must be something they're not telling us.
Exactly. And then what happens? They start lowballing you. Suddenly, you're not in a strong negotiating position anymore.
Right, because it looks like you're desperate to sell.
Exactly. So you need to find that sweet spot early on, that price that's attractive to buyers, but also make sure you're getting a good return.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do you actually find that sweet spot?
That's where a deep understanding of the market comes in. An experienced agent, someone who really knows the Gold Coast like the back of their hand. They're worth their weight in gold because they can look at your property, look at the market, and say, this is where we need to be.
Okay, so we've got pricing nailed down as absolutely essential. What else did this article flag as a potential trap for sellers? There was something in there about, like, dripping taps, which I thought was interesting. Surely something that small wouldn't really scare off serious buyers, would it?
You'd be surprised. You got to remember, buying a house, it's emotional, right?
100%.
And while buyers definitely want to fall in love with the place, they're also looking for reasons not to. Any little thing that makes them hesitate.
So something like a leaky tap, that could actually be a deal breaker?
It might sound a bit ridiculous, but honestly, those little details, they can really make a difference. They plant that seed of doubt.
Right, like if they haven't bothered fixing that, what else have they let slide?
Exactly. It's all about perception. A dripping tap, suddenly they're questioning the whole property's maintenance history, even if everything else is in perfect nick.
It's like for want of a nail, the kingdom was lost kind of thing.
100%. But it doesn't have to be major renovations we're talking about here, right?
Right.
Just those little things. Fix the tap, patch that crack. It shows you care. You've looked after the place.
It builds trust.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Okay, so we talked about pricing. We've talked about those small but important repairs. The article also touched on professional photography, which, okay, that seems pretty obvious now that we're in the age of, Instagram and everything looking picture perfect. I'm guessing blurry iPhone photos just aren't going to cut it.
Not if you want to stand out, that's for sure. Especially here on the Gold Coast, where you've got some serious competition.
Right.
Professional photos, they capture everything. The lifestyle, the natural light we get here, those incredible views. It's about presenting your property in its best light, literally.
Because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
It's that feeling that I could see myself living here kind of vibe.
Exactly. You want them to walk in and feel like they're already home. And it's not just about photos either. The article also mentioned home staging, which can be a really smart investment.
Home staging. So like getting a professional in to make it look all stylish and homey.
Exactly. You make the space look inviting, help potential buyers imagine themselves actually living there. In fact, the article mentioned that for every $4,000 spent on staging, sellers could see a potential return of $40,000.
Wow. That's a pretty impressive return on investment.
It is, and it makes sense, right? If you can walk into a place and instantly imagine yourself cooking in the kitchen, relaxing in the living room.
Yeah, it's already feeling like home rather than just an empty house.
Exactly. Now, speaking of attracting buyers, the article really emphasized the importance of being flexible with open houses and viewing.
Right, because people are busy. I imagine that can be a bit disruptive, especially if you're still living there.
Oh, absolutely. It takes some juggling, for sure. But it's often a necessary evil if you want to get the best price.
Because sometimes all it takes is that one person seeing it at the right time.
100%. The article actually told a really good story about that, about a homeowner who...
And did it pay off for them in the end? This homeowner, I mean...
They sure did. It turned out, right? The person who ended up buying the place, they had this really tight schedule, couldn't make any of the open houses, not a single one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they asked for a private viewing just for them, and the homeowner, to their credit, they said yes.
And the rest, as they say.
Is history. They got their dream home, all because the owner was willing to be a little flexible.
It's amazing how these things work out, you know. Just goes to show a little bit of effort, a little understanding can go a long way, especially in a market like this.
Absolutely. And you know what? This actually ties back to what we were saying earlier about really understanding the Gold Coast market.
Oh, how so?
Buyers here, a lot of times they're not just looking for a house, they're looking for a lifestyle.
That Gold Coast lifestyle.
Exactly. And that includes things like being able to see a property when it suits them, not just when it's convenient for the seller.
That makes a lot of sense. So as we wrap things up here, what are some of the big takeaways for our listeners? You know, the people out there getting ready to put their own piece of Gold Coast paradise on the market.
Well, I think the main thing is to remember that, yes, it can be a tough market. There's no denying that. But it's also a market that really rewards those who are prepared to go that extra mile.
Right, dot the I's, cross the T's.
Exactly. So set that price right from the get-go. Make sure your presentation is top-notch, right? Don't forget those little details, the dripping taps of the world.
Those little things that can make a big difference.
Can be flexible. You never know when that perfect buyer is going to come knocking.
It's been so interesting unpacking all of this with you. I think we've given everyone listening a lot to think about.
Me too. It's always good to chat about this stuff because at the end of the day, selling your home, it's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And hopefully by avoiding some of these common mistakes, our listeners can make the process a little smoother, a little less stressful, and a lot more profitable.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Catch you next time for another deep dive into the world of property.